Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the CYSSDE penetration test vulnerability assessment open call second info day. In this session, we will start with Rosa, who is the project manager from Funding Box, and she will give a short. Ulrich from ELSEC will start with a short presentation of the project, and then Rosa will take over and explain a bit the application system, and then they both will give some tips and tricks on how to build a winning application. In the meantime, you can afterwards we'll have the Q&A, so you can type your questions in the chat in the meanwhile, and after the presentation we will start answering them live. So thank you and welcome. Ulrich, you can start.
Sure. Good afternoon, and thank you very much, Antonio, for hosting us again today. My name is indeed Ulrich Saldesacht. I'm the managing director of a non-profit association called ELSEC. We are the coordinators of the CYSSDE project and activities. CYSSDE is a collaboration of a number of organizations focused on cybersecurity, and adding to that, the partners here from Funding Box, which are so gratefully coordinating the activities in relation to the open calls. Maybe before we start, we've done a similar type of event a couple of weeks ago, just after the launch of the open call in itself. I'll just do a quick recap for those of you who are new to this, and just giving you a little bit of background on the whole thing. So all information can be found, but I assume that you've already did find that on the CYSSDE website. So that's active, available, and has all of the information that we will be talking about here available as well. And also the recording of this webinar will be hosted on the CYSSDE website for you to be able to replay it afterwards. So why CYSSDE? So CYSSDE is indeed a European collaboration. It's a project which is funded under the Digital Europe program. Why CYSSDE? It's basically there to support Digital Europe. So the European Commission a couple of years ago has decided in the previous commission to making sure that there's a transformation towards digital in Europe, and to support this digital transformation. There are many different programs supporting this, Digital Europe being one of them, the core program. And within Digital Europe, there are a number of different topics, specifically one on cybersecurity. Why cybersecurity? Because, of course, with the digital transformation trends, there are new types of vulnerabilities that are being found, exposed, and so they bring along additional cybersecurity challenges which have not yet been known before. Think of, in this case, new types of appliances which are reaching in suddenly the internet world, but equally think of existing types of applications that are just expanding beyond the original realms, and also even new types of applications which are being launched on the websites, on the internet, and where sometimes the cybersecurity is not always that clear. That is mainly the reason why we are organizing within CYSSDE a challenge here for companies in the domain of cybersecurity and beyond to participate in our open calls, where we can offer you funding to discover those potential vulnerabilities within your organization, within your applications, or within your systems. So we offer up to 200,000 euros for this type of challenge. And what we are looking for is for you to be able to build your cybersecurity expertise, to increase the capabilities and capacity in Europe on cybersecurity, and making sure that there's additional professionals being created and formed, but equally so that there's additional assessments which are being done, and in any case to support, in this case, the contributions of assessments in a global scheme, assessments that might lead up to discovering new vulnerabilities. In that respect, we have a slight focus towards everything in relation to critical infrastructure, related to the critical infrastructure regulations that exist. Equally so for everything in relation to the Network and Information Security Directive, NIS2 in this case particularly. So essential entities and important entities, but definitely also for other types of organizations, these type of vulnerability assessments and penetration tests are definitely also valid and sensible. And beyond that, if you're looking more towards appliances and devices, so also there we organize this activity to support the development of things like the Cyber Resilience Act, which is more focused on products and products in this case with digital elements, and making sure that also those products before arriving on the European market, they have been checked for potential security vulnerabilities. So overall, with the activities, we aim within CYSSDE to support the EU regulatory landscape, to support the cybersecurity capabilities in Europe, and overall to grow the European cybersecurity industry. Because especially if European companies will apply for this, which they're only the ones will be granted the funds, we will see that as also an impact, of course, on the development of the industry in itself. So as a result, it's strengthening the European competitive positioning and therefore making sure that additional new types of experiences have been discovered. So the open call started on January 7th and will close on April 7th. So that's next month. So you still have a bit of time to finalize your application. And for this, we have a guide for applicants and a small brochure that will help you in finding out what you specifically have to contribute into. Final note, who is CYSSDE? CYSSDE, in this case, CYSSDE is a consortium of a number of European cybersecurity experts, hereby included a number of them. So we have next to a number of private companies which are there for specific expertise in cybersecurity technologies. Also the Spanish National Cybersecurity Center in CIBE, and the Cybersecurity Directorate in Romania, the NSC, next to ourselves, and then Funding Box, both of us hosting you here today. Beyond the activities of the funding, so the open calls, we also hope to be able to provide some additional benefits for participants, namely some mentoring and access to markets. But equally so for other applicants, we will be helping out with some more intelligence and guidance, or for instance, the regulatory schemes, how they actually can support you in your pen testing activities and vulnerability assessments, or some methodologies that we have gathered and where we can point you out to that exist specifically for pen testing and vulnerability assessments. And we also have made available a tooling platform where you can find some available tools that can help out with the assessments, which have been already utilized by many of our pen testers in the previous years. So before we end into the improvement on how the application can be increased to a higher success rate, I'll hand it over quickly to Rosa, that will be able to give you a bit of insight in the current application form and how you should actually be applying for it. Rosa?
Hi, Ulrich. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, all of you, to join this second webinar today. The idea is have a more practical webinar because now I assume that all of you have read and is familiar with the application form, with the guide and all the materials that we are providing to support you during the application phase. I will make a short recap on some of the eligibility conditions for applying, and then we will open the application form, and Ulrich and I will. So CYSSDE will launch 3 open calls. One of them was targeting the national cybersecurity centers. This is closed, and now we will launch 2 open calls, 2 similar open calls to select penetration testing experts. In these open calls, as Ulrich mentioned, we will select 10 proposals and we will distribute up to 2 million euros among the 10 of them, and the deadline is April 7. So now, with the type of applicant that we are looking for, you can apply as individual or as a consortium. Consortium of maximum of 2 entities, where one of them at least should have expertise or capability.
We lost you again, Rosa, the audio.
Now we lost the audio. Oh my goodness, this is not going. It's probably on a Blue Monday because things seem to be going wrong today. So it's probably a manufacturer's default. And I think Rosa froze again now. I would love to take over, but now we are. Maybe we can already start taking a look into the chat. So I see that hello everybody. I see many hellos, so welcome all of you. And maybe we can already look into the questions while Rosa is trying to reconnect. Okay, there she is. So Rosa, if you're lost again, then I'll start answering some of the questions. But in the meantime, you're back. Good to see you again.
I'm back. Sorry. So again, I will share my screen, right? Very sorry. This one. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it again.
In the right mode, right? The full.
In the right mode. Yeah, perfect.
So I was talking about the type of applicants that we are looking for. You can apply as individual or as a consortium. The consortium has to have maximum 2 entities, and we expect that at least one of these entities has the capabilities to run and conduct the assessment, because as Ulrich mentioned, the main goal of this open call is conduct. Each of the proposals is expecting to conduct at least 10 penetration tests and vulnerability assessment that allow us not only to improve and enhance the cybersecurity of the companies that receive this testing, these services, but also to identify new vulnerabilities to enhance the cybersecurity all around Europe, because at the end we will share the results of our of this penetration test with the European member states. So, who can apply? We are expecting expert organization that has this capability, and with regards to the form, they can be private companies, public bodies, or research and university centers. So the idea is almost any type of entity can apply. The most important thing is they have the capability to run these services. The most important part regarding the most important thing regarding the type of applicant is these applicants should be or has to be registered in a European member state, but also be owned and controlled by or from European member states, because even in some innovation programs as Horizon Europe and Digital Europe, usually companies there are associated countries. CYSSDE is funded under the cybersecurity topic that has the restriction due to the sensitive information that we will manage. So almost any type of company registered in a European member state and owned and controlled by a European member state or from European member state. The selected proposals we receive, as Ulrich mentioned, financial support. Is very important to highlight that CYSSDE will fund it at up to 50% of the total cost of the proposal. So during the application process, you have to submit a budget. It's an estimated budget, but you have to submit a budget with the cost linked to your project, and we will have to see this co-funder rate. So 50% will be paid, up to 50% will be paid or funded by CYSSDE, and the other 50% should be funded by your own means. And we are not, and it's not, and you have to decide on how you will fund this, because you can use your clients as funded, or you can use, for example, other grants from other authorities. So for us, the important thing is you are aware and you will cover this 50%, and then you will receive this mentoring support. So you will have people from the consortium to guide you during these 18 months. And very important thing, the support program is split in 4 stages. And we release the payment as a lump sum. The lump sum methodology is a simplified method to cover the expenses of this project. And this means that you don't need to provide any type of financial documentation. We are not asking you to provide invoices or timesheets. We will expect that you provide the results. So after each of these stages that are in the screen, we will assess and review the performance of your project. And if you perform as expected, as it was planned, you will receive the payment. And now how to apply. The application form is online through Funding Box platform. Can you see now my screen? O sea, the application form.
We can see your browser, correct?
Okay, so this is the landing page of the open call. Here you will find not only the application form but all the related documents to the open call, the guide for applicants, the application form, just in case you want to work on the application form offline and then upload the content, the budget that I mentioned that you need to download and then upload in the specific section for the budget. The sub-grant agreement, that is the contract you will sign with us if you are selected, will come in soon. It's not ready yet, but we expect that for next week can be checked. And the ownership control declaration, that is how we will check if your company is controlled and owned by European and from European country. In this first stage, during the application phase, you only need to submit a declaration. You don't need to provide any additional documentation. It's just the declaration, and if you are selected, maybe you have to provide more documentation, but only in the case that you are selected. We have a section with the frequently asked questions, so we are gathering here all the questions that we are receiving, not all, because some of them are repeated, so not each question is here, but at least the more common questions that we are receiving from the help desk in Discord and also by email. So it's also part of the documentation, the open call documentation. So it's important to have a look and read it. Now I will open a form. As you see here, you can include contributors. So in case, for example, this is very useful for people that is applying as a consortium, but even if you are applying as an individual and you are a team working on the application, you can add as a contributor, so all of you can work together in the application form. The basic information is the legal information that we need to have in order, well, for formal aspects, no? I think here there are not questions. If there are any questions, please let me know, but it's very straightforward. So it's the name of your company, the address, the country, type of domain that you are applying. If you are if your application is individual or consortium, in case of consortium.
And it seems that Rosa froze again. Okay, we'll just wait until she comes back. And as I said, let's take a look into some of the questions which are being raised. I'll probably start from the top. So if you have any questions, then please put them in the chat or in the Q&A section. Okay, Rosa, you were gone again for a couple of seconds.
I know. My connection, let me...
But it's fine now, so you can continue with the project summary and indicating there.
Okay, the project summary. If you are familiar, and I guess that at this point of the open call, all of you are familiar with the selection process, we have a step that is the in-out scope screening. That is if we receive more than 50, 60 applications, we will run this in-out screening. This in-out screening is people, the technical partners of our consortium will review this project summary and decide in a basis, yes, no basis, if you continue in the project, if you are in the scope. So it's not a long section, but it's very important section. So here you need to provide very concise information that help the technical partners, our technical partners, to decide if you must continue or not in this in the evaluation process. Ulrich, I don't know if you want to include or you want to provide feedback or expectations in this first section, or we just move to the next
No,
one?
I think I just keep my comments for a little bit later on, but I think it's important for everybody to see that there's also sometimes limitations in the fields in terms of number of characters. So it's important that you try to focus really on the things that you really want us to know, and making sure that also the proposal in itself is coming across. So review it by yourself. If it says 1,000 characters, there is a limit of 1,000 characters. So be careful there what you write, because also the reviewers in this case will only read those, and make sure that they have the right message that you want to make sure that comes across, that they can see also why your proposal is in this case the better one from all of your competitors, which might be here available.
So then the next question, well, all the sections, as you can see, are mandatory. So all the section or questions with this asterisk is because they are mandatory. So you have to fill in if you want to proceed with the application. Then the excellent impact and implementation are more technical sections. Ulrich, you will take from here. Or
maybe if you can just open one up of the implementation, so we can have a quick view on what that means, just as an example, because of course you'll have to go through it by yourself in this case. But here, for instance, when we talk about resources and capabilities, as it describes, we're looking for your to get an insight on your technical capabilities, on your prior experiences, on the people within your organizations that have those capabilities, and also justifying what type of capabilities and experience that they might be having. Also give an indication which tools that you're planning to use and how you would like to implement those. Some potentially specialized equipment that you might have. So the more detailed and to the point that you can make this application form, because you know what basically it is to do those types of vulnerability assessments and pen tests, the better it is for us to be able to assess how capable and qualified you are in doing the things that you are promising to do. And so that gives you, of course, a better scoring over then in the end. So try to refrain from generalized descriptions and using also general terms. Try to be as specific as you can. Don't use that for the 1,500 characters as a whole, but be more specific and try to limit it to making it very focused. That will help you and help us in assessing and for you then afterwards to actually execute on the works.
Then on top of these three sections, that is where you have to describe, as Ulrich mentions, try to avoid general description, because at the end this is a competitive call. So as much details you provide, and in this phase, more opportunities you will have to be selected. Then the two last sections are the declaration of honor. That is, you have to seek and submit, and it's here where you have to upload the ownership control declaration. And last is the processing of personal data. To click and save. Once you save it, you can submit the application, and you can work on your application till the deadline. So you can submit and work and update it till April 7. Then we have other section, that is the CYSSDE webinars, where Antonio will upload the recording of this session when we finish. I don't have any other.
Okay.
I'm
Then I'll
finished.
just quickly pick over again from here, Rosa, and just to give a bit of pointers. on what we have seen up to now in the different applications that we've received. So, of course, we are not giving any specific details about any of the applications, but we just took a look in some of the submitted applications or the applications in development and under development, and just some pointers on how you can increase your success rate by just applying some of the ideas and suggestions here. So as Rosa was mentioning, if you submit your application, it's not a final. Basically, once you've submitted, then you're sure it will be in before April 7th, but you can still make changes and further improve. So our recommendation in this case is really try to finish earlier in submitting a first application as soon as you can. And then you know what the different questions are. You can further think about this and you can improve on those later, basically until the very last minute, as Rosa was saying. So type the text, put it in there, leave it a couple of days, review it again. Do make sure that what you wanted to say is in there once you review it again. Ask somebody else to review it. All of those tips and tricks can help you improving your application for sure. What we see is that we're receiving mostly cybersecurity organizations that are applying for it, which is fine. As we mentioned, this is a call open to any organization. So there are also a number of other organizations which are applying, which is definitely fine and acceptable too. However, we would like to make a notification to those other organizations that you have to include your cybersecurity expertise and making sure that it is at par level on what the cybersecurity organizations are providing us. You will be compared, of course, and the applications will be compared in this case as every single application. So we don't have any preference in any specific sector or domain. No, if you can showcase that also from within your organization in any type of domain beyond cybersecurity, you also have this expertise and you can equally qualify in the same level of expertise as some of the colleagues in the cybersecurity domain, then you'll raise your stakes for sure. Receiving mostly individual applications. Now, individual in this case has to be considered as individual organizations, so not individuals as persons, you and me. So, of course, you as a person that's submitting this in name of your organization. And so it's individual applications that we are receiving, which is fine. So those consortia that are submitting also provide us with the necessary insight and detail of your organizations, the individual organizations then that make up the consortium, given the limitations of the application form. So yes, we allow consortia to participate, and so definitely consider that. But just keep in mind that you have the same space available as any individual organization to apply for this. So keep that in mind as well. In some of the applications that we are receiving, we are missing out on some concrete numbers in the application forms. Even while we have specifically asked for that in the forms, do try to provide us with concrete numbers. This will make our and your lives easier also afterwards. For instance, the number of penetration tests are definitely the least thing that we have to see. Make those results quantifiable and commit to them, commit to the actual results. You will be asked for to do that in any case at the moment that we get into a selection process. And once you have been selected, you will be asked to commit to those numbers in any case at that point in time. If you're presenting experiences, historical and prior results of your pen tests or submissions or publications that you have done, that's great, but try to also include at least a couple of references so that our evaluators can check those and evaluate those also at par value. So basically what they have been presented of. In some cases, we are receiving some general descriptions on, yes, we have been validated by XYZ, but there's no reference to that validation. So that's actually, in that case, maybe not the best thing to do. And maybe if you don't have that specific detail, then just maybe refrain from putting it in there because it might raise more questions than it actually answers anything. The same is true for if you're referring to some specific domains, refer to the sources and make sure that we can check them. Don't forget that we have been providing already on the website, even if it's in a limited format right now. There's actually a whole white paper that will be published in a short while on the methodologies that can be used. We've done some assessments there. So use the methodologies that exist. You don't have to use them. You can use your own methodologies. But if you do whichever, just make sure that we can also validate whatever type of methodology that you have. And also, don't forget about the documentation requirements. So doing vulnerability assessments and pen tests also means that you have to document whatever results come out. And so the quality of the documentation in this case is also something that we will be definitely looking into. And provide as much as additional proof of access to actual tests that you can provide to us. Targeting critical infrastructure as mentioning is fine, but providing evidence to the fact that you will be doing that is better. Suggestions that we put in there, you can put in there sort of terms, letters of support. You can put in there actual contracts or referring to actual contracts that exist. You can refer to existing client relationships. All of those are fine. You can have a preferred partnership relationship. So, but anything that makes it more concrete is, in this case, a lot better. That goes for both organizations from other sectors that are applying for the funds and are hiring cybersecurity experts, as for cybersecurity experts which are looking for, in this case, critical or essential entities, infrastructures. And then finally, a word here, carefully select your wording. It's good to write decent, qualified, strong, but those words are meaningless unless you can also provide us with some additional proof on what that means. So otherwise, those words will remain relatively hollow. So those are a couple of suggestions for further improvements of some of the applications that we found. So we didn't go into any details, but I think that the ones of you that will be looking back into their application form, you will be seeing some of those components, and hopefully you can learn from those suggestions and improve them further along, and basically therefore also improve your application in itself. Okay, so I think Rosa and Antonio, there's a lot of questions that we received in the chat room. So I suggest that we jump to those. A number of the questions which are being asked have already been answered in our frequently asked questions on the Funding Box platform. And so we can definitely refer to you to those as well. And we can definitely also share them, of course, in other means. But Antonio, how do you want to go about on the questions?
I think we can start from the top. They are all pasted in the chat. So Nicholas wants to know, are automatic solution allowed? Automatic detection of vulnerability in binaries?
Yeah, so it's a two-sided question that I'll be happy to tackle, Rosa. So yes, they are allowed, as in automatic solutions are allowed, as long as they support, of course, the end goal, and that is that you can provide a decent number of pen tests. And of course, you have to be able to provide some indications and clarity that the quality of the automated assessments will be equally as good, or at least to what level that they would be equally as good as the manuals. Of course, we understand as well, and also as well as our evaluators, that the automated mechanisms will not be always entirely the same, but the more proof and insights that you can give us in that level, the better. In the same line of questioning, in binaries, so yes, those are definitely also allowed. You just have to then specify what types of binaries when it comes to, for instance, appliances, or maybe in this case in applications. So just indicate there on how you would see that fit.
Thank you. Liane wants to know, will there be another cutoff dates for 2025 apart from the 7th of April, please?
Shall I tackle that as well, Rosa? Yeah. So this is the only call that we will be doing in 2025. There will be an additional call, Open Call 3, we call it, but that will likely be launched in early on 2026, but there's no definitive date yet. And basically our recommendation is try to apply for it now. It's a good experience, and you can learn from the experience and improve also by next year, because otherwise you'll start from scratch next year, and otherwise you can build upon your existing experiences.
Just elaborate a bit on what you are saying. It's a good idea apply now, because even if you are not selected in this first open call, after the whole process, you will receive the feedback from the evaluator. So in somehow you can improve your chance in the next open call. So if you are thinking apply now, because even if you are not selected, you will receive an evaluation report from the evaluator that will help you on the next open call.
Please note that a minimum of 25% of the overall budget allocation will be designated for SMEs. SMEs as partners or as clients can positively impact in the evaluation.
So the answer to that is yes. And so you can take it on both ways in that answer. So both as partners or as clients.
Is there a preferable size for consortiums? If we are a startup company looking for our first client in Europe, is this program a good fit for us?
So the preferable size, and there's only one size, is 2. So 2 individual organizations can apply as a consortium, meaning that either you don't have a consortium or you have a consortium of 2 partners.
When sub-grant agreement will be ready, we need our time to review with our legal counsel.
We'll take this one. Will be uploaded next week, and we will send a message through the platform to inform you when we'll be there. But early next week, I will add something in the previous question, because they say something that is a startup looking for a partner in Europe, or something. No, the previous question.
Yeah, is there a preferable size for consortium if we are a startup company looking for our first client in Europe? Is this a program a good fit for us?
Not sure what mean, but what is very important that both partners in the consortium should be registered in Europe and owned and controlled by European country and from a European country, just in case.
Thank you for the clarification. Question from Vitor Vieira. Is it possible to have the same organization that provide the pen testing on 2 different proposals with different coordinator and scope?
So I'll take that first, maybe, Rosa. So yes, you can apply as the same organization multiple times. However, and I think that's a question that follows a little bit later on, the maximum grant that we can offer you is 200,000 euros. So you can not add different types of winning proposals one to the other. If in this case you have a consortium and potentially 2 consortiums will be selected, you will have to choose as an organization which of the consortiums you will be working with because of the maximum limit. If you decide at that point in time to use 2 consortia, then the limit will still remain 200,000 euros in total for one organization in this case.
Are European Free Trade Association member states considered within the scope of EU member states?
Rosa, I'll let you handle that. You're muted now.
Yeah.
Yes. Are European Free Trade Association member states considered within the scope of EU member states? Is EFTA.
No. I need to be there. I'm not sure. Is an organization that is registered in Europe?
So no, I think we should in this case just answer the basics like it's mentioned in the guide for applicants. So the companies, organizations that can apply for the funds and that will be able to receive the funds are organizations which are registered in Europe, in any of the 27 member states, and only those. So if those European Free Trade Association member states are part of those, then yes. Rosa?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's we're not gonna deal with the EFTA, but thanks for asking. But we're not sure about that, so we'll just give you the answer the way that it's been written down at this point in time. That's basically a decision that's coming from, in this case, the European Commission, that is in the end our sponsor for these funds.
Do we need to state which app or devices we will be pen testing on the application?
Well, you don't need to, but I would recommend you to do so in as much detail as you can. So you'll have to figure out a bit of a balance in between what is the right level of detail. We like detail. We like the more detail that we can see. So if you can say that it is a specific type of brand of a certain year, of a certain type, with a certain specific scope and where it's being hosted, is better than saying that it will be, let's say, just an SS7 device that's somewhere in an operational environment. That's not really that helpful, the latter. So the more that you can specify, the better that we can also qualify your expertise and also the applicability towards, for instance, in this case, critical infrastructures or the essentialness of those vulnerability assessments.
Another question from Vitor Vieira, but you already mentioned that you cannot win both two proposals from the same consortium. So that's the answer is no, you cannot. Next question from Vera. Do I understand correctly that the tested organization can pay the remaining 50%?
That is correct. But as Rosa was saying, it's not only that. So if you would like to offer this to potential clients, the tested organization, as you mean, so yes, they can basically help you in this activity by paying you, in this case, the additional remaining 50%. You can also use your own resources, as in your existing cost structures. So if you would like to offer this for free to your customers for whatever reason, then you can also do that. You can also have your customers funding you for 100%, and you get the additional 50% on top. So there's many different mechanisms that you can apply. That is really up to you to decide. But we have to get a bit of an insight on how you plan to do that. And we also would like to see, of course, some justification about what you plan to put in there. But any of the above is fine. And as Rosa said, you can also use other types of funding mechanisms. So regional, local funding, additional state subsidies to actually execute these works.
Thank you. Felipe wants to know, are penetration tests mandatory for applying? Do they have to be carried out before applying, or can they be carried out after submission?
It's an interesting question. So yes, they are mandatory. That's basically the focus and the objective of this open call. They can be carried out before applying, but the whole thing is that you should basically start carrying them out after you've been selected. So not only after submission, but also after the selection, because that's only when we will be able to start giving you the funds. So if you want to do the pen test before that, please feel free to do so, but you cannot use the funds that we will be able to offer you. It has to be part basically of the activity that you have to execute.
Do we have to share full penetration testing or vulnerability assessment reports, or we just redacted version with overall results?
Well, that's also a very interesting question that comes up quite often, and we understand that question more than likely anybody else in this world because we are from the same sector. We understand the challenges and difficulties in terms of sharing insights and intel from, in this case, the quite sensitive information. Now, everything has to be considered, of course, in the context of where it takes place, especially this one. So the first place that I would say, it depends really what type of application and penetration testing that you would be doing. So in which type of environment it would be executed in. If it's, for instance, in critical infrastructures, it might be different from just a general type of application that it might be tested. If it's a device versus a piece of critical infrastructure, that might also be some differentiators. In general terms, what we see as a best practice in the industry is that you can share details about the results without disclosing, therefore, the names of the organization where it takes place, and basically removing everything that might refer to identifying the end user organization where it would be taking place. In essence, if there would be doubt, because the ones that will be reviewing this will be only a limited number of persons from the CYSSDE consortium. They will be the mentors and monitors of your application activities. And so they will be asking you for maybe some additional insights, but only they will be able to access that intel, unless you are also, of course, capable of sharing it in any way, shape, or form further. So those will be limited numbers of persons. And then in addition to that, if they have questions or concerns about the level of detail that you provide to them, they will have to start asking more questions and details. But that's a consultation process that has to happen between you and then, in this case, the mentors or the ones which are monitoring the execution of your activities. Unfortunately, if you do not provide substantial detail upon their request, we will have to then make a decision inside of the CYSSDE activities whether to actually grant you the final results and amounts. But in principle, I think we have more than enough capable and experienced persons to make the right balance between. So yes, you will have to share some level of detail with us. We are also, and that's maybe a final comment that I wanted to make, that's also posted into the frequently asked questions. In essence, the activities that we are doing is also to provide some capability experience sharing. So some of the results of the pen tests, being them generalized or maybe very concrete, if you create a CVE out of it that you are going to publish, we would like to reuse those results and stimulate others and create awareness to other organizations, definitely also within the member states, to increase further the capacity and capabilities of organizations in Europe to do this. So in the end, some, maybe yours, results in terms of the vulnerability assessments and pen tests will also be used to create some additional promotion. But if we do that, it will always be in consultation with you and potentially with your end user customer.
Thank you. The end user who provide the use case on which to execute vulnerability assessment and penetration testing should be a consortium member or could be an external member?
They can be both. So that's basically your choice as an organization. If you want to include them as part of a consortium, so then in this case, it's a consortium between you and the end user. In this case, both of you can receive parts of the funding. Or it can be a client of yours or a partner or basically a potential customer that in this case, once you receive the funds, you can start executing it based upon a contract or terms of engagement that you have with them. So it can be both. That's really depending on how you would like to do that.
Can companies that do not have yet the expertise but plan to use the funding for getting the expertise or certification or are actively working to getting the expertise for their in-house personnel eligible to apply?
Yes, of course you can. And that's really what we also want to stimulate here. That's also one of the reasons why we are reserving 25% of, let's say, the funds for the applications for SMEs, because we do see that there's a number of SMEs in this domain that would like to increase their expertise level and experiences. And so therefore, yes, you can use the funds for getting additional expertise, for additional certifications. But of course, you'll have to prove that you currently already have a level of expertise that is, let's say, quantifiable enough and high enough to be able to join the competition.
To what extent?
Maybe, sorry, Antonio, maybe a small addition I can suggest there. If you, for instance, that's maybe a good addition to this. If you, for instance, have an experience in, let's say, application security testing, and you would like to expand your level of expertise and also the capacity of your expertise into another domain, that I think would be a very decent way of claiming that this would be a very good way of sharing that. Sorry.
Thank you. Second, to what extent provided expert will have impact on the decisions and conducting activity, only in terms of needed or requested by us support, or rather as a continuous monitoring for the project?
That question is not entirely clear to me. I'm not sure what you mean with provided experts in this case. Do you mean the provided experts by us as the mentors? And in this case, I can try to answer the question, have impact on decisions and conducted activities. So the mentors will, in the first place, be guiding you in order to make sure that once you have been selected, that you will be asked to sign the subgrant agreement that Rosa was talking about earlier on. But also to put in place actually a scheme of implementation. So basically that you will start executing on the application that you provided to us. And they will monitor that that's actually in line with the application that you submitted. And they will then also monitor the activities that you will execute following that plan. So they have impact on decisions there. That is to guide you to making sure that this is happening. They will not interfere with your execution of the work in itself, unless, for instance, you ask them or you get into some form of trouble or you have some doubts or questions. Then they will start helping you as a mentor to their, let's say, best capabilities as a cybersecurity expert in helping you out in executing the activities and the tasks that you're expected to execute. So they will be there to support you, but they will also be there to evaluate you and to monitor you.
Thank you. What does the NR-volume mean in the boxes below? I think the question refers to the project summary section of the Rosa presentation.
Antonio, can you repeat? Because
Yes. What does the NR-volume mean in the boxes below? Referring to project summary, there is a field called exactly NR-volume in the project summary.
I don't.
So
it's number volume, no? Is the number? I don't know which text are you referring, but it's number of volume.
Yeah.
No?
So it's the we're asking for a specific number or a specific volume of, for instance, penetration tests that will be executed, the number or volume of applications that you will be testing, or appliances that you will be testing. So basically, those boxes require for you to fill in a number, as in versus text. So we really require a specific digit to be put in there.
Marta wants to know reports. Can you explain how detailed information you need to get from report? We need to understand that we are signing an NDA with client. Usually they don't want to share detailed information about vulnerabilities found in the system, what is not surprising. Right now, it's not clear what information will be sufficient.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, I think I've answered the question before. There is no way for us to determine what that needs to be, because it will be depending on the types of penetration testings that you will be executing. So I recommend that you provide us with some guidance yourself on what you can and what you cannot provide us at any possible time. But take into consideration what we just mentioned in relation to the mentoring and the monitoring. And I'm sure that your clients will also understand that this has to happen. If needed, we as a consortium can also undersign an NDA with your clients that we will keep this information strictly limited and only on a need-to-know basis. So it remains under non-disclosure. So that is something that we can foresee at that specific point in time, or that we can ask our mentors in any case to sign off on a personal level as well, if that would be needed. So we can try to find a way in the middle, but I cannot say that we would be accepting no information at all, and I cannot say that we need to get every detail necessary possible. So if you have some limitations, then inform us about it. If you think it's going to be a challenge, try to let us know what type of level of detail that you can provide us. If you think we can manage that during the process, then you don't have to specify it any further.
Thank you. Next question. Is it necessary to have customers already, or is the amount of tests enough? And follow-up question, are there limits on who can be a client for our pen test? For example, we can just test SMEs or public bodies.
Okay, let me start with the last first. So there are no limits on who can be clients or basically subjects of your pen test or vulnerability assessments. We have mentioned on multiple occasions in the guide for applicants and also on the presentations and websites that we do have a slight preference towards critical infrastructure, essential and important entities, or products with digital elements, as we are also linking ourselves to the deployment of the, let's say, supporting the regulatory developments. So there is a slight preference there. SMEs definitely also applicable. Is it necessary to have customers already? No, it's not. So you don't have to have customers already for this. We are looking to the amount of tests, and so that in principle is enough. However, as we mentioned before as well, it would be better if you can at least provide us with some additional documentation that you actually know where you will be going to do the pen test in more detail, rather than leaving it up to a generalized perspective.
In the ownership control declaration, there are some questions that we believe are confidential as describing corporate governance and control. Does our annual transparency report is sufficient? The report includes detailed information on our governance structure, policies, and procedures.
Unfortunately, no. The ownership control must submit it during the application phase. It's true that all the information that we are receiving is treated as a confidential. So we know that it's sensitive information and will be confidential. And we are just asking the description. We are not asking for the supportive documents. So trying to minimize this confidentiality thing. But the ownership control must be submitted in the application phase with the application form.
Maybe to give a bit of clarification on that level, the reason why this is being asked for is to be able to determine that your organization is actually located and operated, but also controlled in one of the EU's 27 member states. So if you can provide us with a substantial amount of information that gives us the assurance that this is the case, then you're answering basically the question. If you already have this annual transparency reporting that includes detailed information on your governance structure, then it's probably just going to be for you a simple copy-paste from that into the ownership control declaration form. In this case, also, this is not a request from us as a consortium. It's a request from the European Commission that wants their funds, in this case, our funds, to be distributed back into Europe, rather than having an ownership which is going beyond Europe, and therefore seeing basically the control of those funds disappearing outside of Europe. So keep that in mind, and if you keep that in mind with that focus on filling in the ownership control documentation, you should be good.
Thank you. Will slides and recording be available in the next days? I can answer for the recording. The recording will be uploaded tomorrow, the Funding Box application site in the tab CYSSDE webinars. I'm pasting the link in the chat.
Yeah, and I can also confirm that we will also publish it on the CYSSDE website, and we can also add to those the slides that we've been using today.
Thank you. We have the NDAs with previous clients. How do we prove we work with them without naming them?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's basically up to you to decide now what we can say. As Rosa also mentioned, what you put into the application forms is also kept confidential. I mean, we are also bound by GDPR. We're also bound, in this case, by our professional ethical way of working. So we are obviously not disclosing, like we didn't do today, the names or participants of the applications or applicants. So if you have NDAs with your previous clients, you can still honor them. If you only want to disclose, let's say, the sectors or the domains, that's of course completely up to you to decide. But again, as I mentioned before, the more detail, the better. So it will be up to our evaluators to determine whether your submission and application can be seen as qualified enough.
Thank you. Hi, is it necessary to obtain or provide a letter of comfort from an user to demonstrate their involvement and commitment to the project?
It's not necessary. It is advisable and is recommended.
Thank you. We need to decide from the beginning how many tests we will perform. But what if we have the possibility to do bigger projects, but a smaller number in the end in granted money?
Bigger projects, but smaller number. That's a difficult question. How should we deal with that, Rosa?
I think it's not easy to reply because we need to understand first what is bigger project, but it's something that we should agree with the mentors. It's true that we expected at least 10 penetration tests per funded project, but maybe it's a nuclear facility that we are pen testing. Ulrich should be, this is a big project. No sé, this during the first month of the support program, you will work with your mentor on the specification of the executive plan. So there is possible to agree with the mentor and then approve by the selection committee this type of specific questions. Because to reply correct, we need to have more details on what means bigger projects. But could be a possibility.
Yeah, so I would say out of principle, and also for all of the other participants here, we are not aiming to differ from what you submitted in the application form. But and especially in terms of the number of tests. I mean, it can also not be the case that you put in the application form that you would be doing 100 pen tests, and then in the end, even if it's bigger types of companies or end users, that you only do 10. So it has to be a bit of a balanced thing. But we would like you to execute on the things that you're putting into the application form. If there's a difference of a couple of numbers going, let's say, below, then it could probably be acceptable. If there's more, so it really depends on how you then, in this case, select your end clients and the types of discussions that you have with them. Now, as a sort of a bit of an expertise that from our own experiences, if you are doing pen tests into one organization, big organization, and you're starting to do 10, there is maybe a mechanism that you can see on how to do the mitigation in different steps and do additional pen tests on the same types of appliances and applications. So it will also be, of course, depending a bit on the level of depthness, but we are in a cybersecurity improvement trajectory, and so doing a test from, let's say, the baseline, doing an improvement, doing a test again, doing an implementation, doing a test again, is a normal way of working. So that also applies here. And so maybe work on that basis.
Thank you. Anyway, Marta, if you want to further elaborate your question, you can click on the bottom, raise your hand, and I will give you the floor to speak. Next question from Jakub again. How big of a problem are missing certification for team members? We have enough experience, but we didn't certify our tester due to cost. They are an NGO.
Well, I mean, having certification is one thing. Having certification with zero experience is another thing. If you have enough experience and you can also justify that experience, number of years, number of publications, that's the reason why we're asking for these things. That is also quantifiable enough for our evaluators to make up the decision whether you have the necessary expertise or not.
Thank you. Question from Elena. If we apply as a consortium, who should submit the application? The pen testing company or the other SME, a cybersecurity company as well? Who is responsible for filling out the declaration on their own responsibility?
That's completely up to you to decide. So either you can draw a straw, or you can flip a coin, or you can have a decent discussion about it. So in the end, the consortium agreement, the subgrant agreement, will be signed with both entities. So both of you will have to carry the joint responsibility in executing.
Thank you. Can we combine pen test and vulnerability scans in the application?
You're very much advised to do so.
Michael wants to know if applying by consortium, dual bodies have to be controlled within the EU member state. I think we answered that as a yes, they have to be both controlled from within the European Union. Marta, how should we understand the 50% of cost for which we will get funding? Do you mean 50% invoice for the client, for example?
Yeah, I think we also answered that already a couple of times. So the 50%, as Rosa was mentioning earlier, we have to see when you submit an application that there is a total budget of at least 400,000 if you're applying for 200,000 euros. So anything more is definitely fine. Anything below means that you will only get 50% of the amounts below. So if you're submitting an application for 300,000 euros, then you will only be granted 150,000 euros for the funds. So it doesn't have to mean an invoice for the client. It can be multiple clients, it can be other types of funds. You can fund it yourself. So there's multiple ways of doing that, like we mentioned before.
Marta, which actually asked this question, wants to talk. So Marta, you can open your mic now.
Yes. Hi, hello.
Marta.
Additional question, just to clarify my question, because I'm wondering how to define the cost, because how do you understand it? Is it for you the cost of the service which I would, for example, sell to the client? So taking for account that I will give a discount for the client 25%, for example, and the test would cost 1,000, for example. So it's like I'm showing that, for example, it would cost 100,000 and I will give the client 25%, but you will give me 50% from this 100, yes?
Not entirely. So we will look into the costs that you have as an organization. So not the cost that you are providing to your client. So that means if you have a team that's working on this, and the total costs of the team that's working on this would be, let's say,
Okay.
20,000 euros.
Okay.
You provide in this case, the costs of the team as part of the budget. And if you then charge your customer the 1,000 euros and you provide them with a 25% discount, that's totally up to you to decide.
Okay, but how to prove you later, for example, after doing the project for the client, how to prove you in this cost?
Well, Rosa.
You don't need to prove the cost. It's what we are saying. We are using the lump sum. So what we expect is the results. As Ulrich mentioned, you will have a plan to conduct during these 18 months. We will expect some deliverables, some KPIs. At the end, some results, and you will have a mentor. So we will pay you against the result. Did you meet the KPIs? You will receive the money. If not, we will ask you for some improvements, or maybe we have to reduce the cost proportionally to what was reached. But we don't need, you will not request to provide any invoice or any financial information. We are looking for the results.
But we need to also take for account one thing. There's something like cost of providing services and something like the cost for the client. And those are two different numbers, as we know, because we need to earn money, not only earn on our costs. So I assume that, for example, I have a project which will take 5 weeks, and it will be cost on our side this kind of cost, but I will sell it with 20%, for example, up to the client. So you will give us the money with this up or without it.
So we will
Understand me.
Not sure.
Yeah.
What we will ask is a budget. You will present a project with a specific number of services that you will provide, and with specifications. And we will just ask you how much cost for you these activities.
Okay.
And we will fund it the 50%. The 50% will come from CYSSDE, and the other 50% by your own means. Your own means or your clients, discounts, whatever. But we will request a budget of a whole project.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marta. A question from Juan Bautista. How does the payments justification process work? More or less yours. Yes.
The support program is structured in different stages, and after each stage, you have to provide some. You have to provide your performance, and your performance must be aligned what we expected in the execution plan that was approved. If everything is going well, you will receive the payment. If not, you will be asked a request to make improvements, or maybe receive less money. But after each stage, we will carry out an assessment to evaluate if you are performing as the plan. If you are performing as the plan, you will receive the money.
Thank you. Is it permissible for two companies under the same CEO or ownership to establish a consortium? Could this arrangement present any potential challenges or conflict of interest?
Not at all. So definitely okay.
What about language of report, English or local language?
English, please.
Adding to the questions on publishing reports versus NDA agreements with customers and sensitivity of information, report for customers will be in local language. So for open call reports, we will need to compile or summary overview in English, right? Yes.
Correct. Yes.
Are developing tools and methods for upgrading process for NS2 compliance audit is an activity that can be funded within the stage 2 of the projects. I'm referring to auditing activities that are not equal to penetration testing or vulnerability assessment.
Yeah, we answered that question also already before. So developing tools and methods for upgrading the process for vulnerability assessments and pen testing are definitely also acceptable. So it's not about NIS2 compliance audits, but that of course fits under there. Yes, you can use the funds to do this. And the end result has to be, again, X number of vulnerability assessments or pen tests.
Where or how to upload supporting documents, for example, letters of support.
Good question. In a section in the application form, but I think we have to include it because I was checking now that while I was explaining the application form, I realized that we only have a space for the budget. So we will add a new section, a new space to upload the extra information.
Sorry, Rosa. Are penetration tests and vulnerability assessments count as different cases?
Maybe on the previous, then just for everybody to know that we will make sure that everybody knows that this additional field will be added to the application form, and that so everybody can increase their application at the same time, basically, with these additional letters of supports or information that might be needed.
Can we provide pen testing services to a client from Republic of Moldova?
The Republic of Moldova.
Is not a member state, right?
As far as
I have this doubt. I believe it's not a member state. So if it's not a member state, cannot be.
Well,
the application is true that the organization that receive funds should have to be from European member states, but also the activities that we carry out must be to companies in European member states. So
I think that's a very important addition that you're making there. Now, maybe as a small suggestion in this case to Elena, in essence, we don't have to know that your client is based in the Republic of Moldova. So if you can help us knowing that you're doing the pen testing activities, in this case from a client closer to you, and you are part of the EU 27 member states, and you have all of the tools there to do the pen tests, then that is equally valid. So if you then apply that expertise and experience to your client from Moldova, then that's very interesting as well, because then you're exporting your experiences and services beyond the EU. So just make sure that we have substantial information about the types of pen testing that you want to do for the types of application, like basically everybody here in this application.
Which is the time frame for the application and evaluation decision? And when are the approved projects expected to start?
We expect June. So they have the final list of beneficiaries by mid-May. And start the support program in June, first quarter of June.
What if you will grant us 2,000 euros and we will use only 185?
The thing is that you don't receive the money in advance. So if you grant for 2,000 euros, if you perform as a plan, you will receive 200,000 euros. If you realize, it's to that if at the end, because we are not asking for invoice, but you have to account all the cost of the internally for your own accountability things. So if in some moment you realize that you will spend less amount, in this case, you must update your budget, and then we will pay you against this budget.
Thank you. And I think this is the last question, if we didn't miss anything. A note, despite the lump sum funding in open call, each funded organization has to archive all financial documentation for potential revision in the future. So you will need to do proper accounting. However, the budget we can submit to the open call and which is considered for 50% funding is based on internal cost budget, not on the commercial price, right?
On internal cost, on the internal cost budget.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think this is it. If anybody has one last question.
I think we're missing out on the Q&A, Antonio, in this case. So in the Q&A, there's also a number of questions still there.
I think I pasted in the chat. I think we.
Okay, that could be.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
I think we answer all.
Yes, you have answered those as well. Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining the webinar, and we wish you the best luck with your application. And remember, you will be able to access the recording tomorrow.
And we cross our fingers for all of you. Make the best application. We'll go and burn a candle or 20. We'll send you many different supports, ideas. And so all positive energy to all of you, making a great application. And we're looking forward to receiving plenty of them. And so good luck to all of you.
Good luck. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.